All right, Kieran, thanks for coming back on. If you're just watching this for the first time, I already posted the first part of our AMA, and Kieran's been nice enough to come back on after my Wi-Fi just cut out on me. So Kieran, welcome back. Thanks for coming back on.
No worries, man. What's happening? Do you have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was good. Sunday night for me. I just got my daughter all showered, ready to go to bed. Gonna do this, and it's back to the work week.
Nice.
Yeah, right. So watching back that last one, I gotta give you some credit. You finished like a 2 minute answer when I was just completely frozen on screen. It was awesome. Um,
Wow. I didn't even realize. I thought it was still
that I was just
I
that I
thought it
was
was still
just really
streaming. This
still, really
restream
still.
is pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, it kept recording the whole time, which is great. But yeah, so this we were halfway through this question. So the land inflation part you answered, and then you can see at the bottom here, there's a few more questions that I want to ask on that. Just like how are you going to deal with botting? How much play time is involved, and any increased utility that might be coming with land.
Yeah, so playtime it's around about I think to optimize your land you need to play about 30 to 60 minutes a day depending. Obviously, where you're up to in building the different structures on your land is going to vary that time a little bit. But yeah, Johnny's explained that about 30 to 60 minutes is going to be optimal to keep your land producing as much fuel as possible.
Yeah. And do you think that could change? Because just for example, I know with some other games when they want to change around the economics to try to keep the coin price up, one thing they do is they make it like require more time to get the same return. So somebody who might be playing 5 plots of land could take them say 3 hours to do, but then it might the time might double, like the required time might double, and then all of a sudden they don't have time to do it. So do you think something like that would change?
Yeah, it definitely is on the cards. We've said multiple times that we're planning to build out ILVzero to be more like an interactive sort of Clash of Clans type game. But for now, no. And then obviously the council needs to come on and decide what they want to do there, right? Like we can't just go and change the entire game, especially when we're talking when things are live. And as you're saying, right? Like if you bought the land based on the fact that it was going to take an hour, and then all of a sudden you need to put in 5 hours a day, and you just don't have that, maybe that feels like a negative experience for you.
Yeah.
So anything like that would, of course, have to go through, the council's approval. But I think it would definitely make it. We definitely have plans to make it a more engaging game over time.
Okay. Um, can you comment on that at all? Like what plans you might have in the future for ILLUvium even if it's 5 years down the road? Like how big is it gonna get? Are we gonna be able to walk around in it with VR glasses?
I don't think VR is very high up on the list, and certainly not for ILLUvium. I think I don't know. Aaron's talked about having building it out into a world where essentially you've got to hold you've got like a base and other people can attack it and you've got to defend it, and people will come in to try and tap your fuel supplies and stuff like that. So but again, I don't want to get too crazy with it because then people run with ideas, and all of this is set to change. But yeah, it's definitely got the potential to turn into more of a sort of command and conquer style game.
Awesome. All right, looking forward to that. And then just quickly on botting, is there a plan to prevent botting from occurring? I know that's a big problem in the space.
I don't know the exact plans that the team has to prevent botting. From my perspective, bots they're controlled by humans, so it's one of those things where there's only 20,000 plots of land, and obviously, if you build a bot that's smart enough to be able to extract your fuel at the right time and then optimize things like that, it can only be like it's not so much harming other people. It's just making things more efficient by building a bot to do it. So I don't know. I think if it becomes a problem, then they'll definitely counter it. But
Yep.
I don't know the exact plans of the team.
Okay. So the next question is about future generations of alluvials. I mean, we all know by now that eventually the first generation is just gonna be uncatchable in the overworld. But one of the things I was thinking about is I've heard you mention that there might only be something like 50 alluvials in the second set. Does that make the game like more boring, I guess you'd put it, if you're out there and there's only 50 possibilities instead of 185 possibilities?
So when I say 50, I mean 50 brand new alluvials. What
Yeah.
you would likely see is different types of existing alluvials in the first set.
Okay.
So
Okay.
maybe we change the class that they are or the affinities that they have,
Okay.
and we call it some type of uh, newer Rhamphyre, right? Like very similar to what Pokemon does.
Yeah, with that Alohan region thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think the plan is to always keep it around that 150 mark because that's the way that we've sort of got the balance now. I think it would be a little bit weird to go from 150 down to 50,
Yeah.
but what I'm talking about is just pure new alluvials each set.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I heard that as a possibility. I wasn't sure if that was gonna be right into the next set. But yeah, so like the Rhamphyre as it exists in set one is only going to be available in set one, but there could be different versions of that in future sets. All right, did I get that
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And that was kind of what I meant by recycling alluvials. All right, let's move to this next one. So esports. I know plans to make esports something big in Illuvium, but can you just talk on how big it's going to be? Are there going to be different leagues that people could play in? Anything you got for us?
Look, we're talking to, I think, three of the top 10 largest esports teams in the world right now. And that's going to be a big part of our marketing to gain access to mainstream players. The They're very targeted, right? When it comes to uh, Dota players or League of Legends players, they literally have millions in catchments where they're playing these auto battlers already, and so we just need to go to them and say, "Hey, here's a new type of auto battler. It's got enough similarities with those games that they're used to playing, as long as we entice them with token incentives and large prize pools and different leagues that we set up, then yes, we will be able to start tapping into them. So that is 100% going to be a thing as we roll out Arena and the tournaments and everything that goes with that. But yeah, we're not revealing any of that kind of stuff until later on.
Okay, and I know we already touched a little bit on like rentals and sponsors, but when you think about that more in the idea of esports, so will there be systems set up so that those those gamers who might be really good gamers but still don't have the means to get these alluvials are able to compete and have a chance in like esports competitions?
Yeah, so you can rent it. The way that I see it is, if you've got a tournament coming up a couple of weeks away, you would probably go to the rental platform and see if it's available. Some people might have it, but they might not put it up for rent, or maybe they're using it for themselves or whatever. But if it is available, maybe you start renting it a couple of weeks out, test it out with your team, and see if it is exactly the alluvial that you're looking for to complete your team. And then you go into the tournament. You have a much more powerful comp, and see how you go. And then after the tournament has finished, maybe you win some prize money because you ended up dominating because you have that really strong team now. And then after the month period of you renting it, you hand it back. You pay a small amount of fees on that, and you walk away. Yeah, I definitely see that as a thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea for people. Say they want to try a Rhamphyre or a Rhamphyre and not sure if it's really going to fit well in their deck, renting it out for a little bit instead of paying however much it's going to cost to get it off somebody else. And now, are these systems going to be set up in game, or you said by a third party? Is it how would you actually go about doing this?
Yeah, so it'll be a third party. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be integrated into, say, like the Illuvidex or whatever. It has the potential over time. If we see that it's a big enough thing, and we're getting enough movement on these systems, then we could definitely integrate it. But right now, we're only talking about using a third party integration. It's not something that we want to spend our time building ourselves. It's obviously quite a complex system, and yeah, so I'm not sure where it's gonna. It's definitely not going to be in game to start off with.
Yep.
At
Yep.
best, it would be attached to the Illuvidex, but again, it could also be just a third party platform that we endorse and recommend, and that would entail going to their platform and renting them out there.
Okay. And I saw that there was, I'm not sure if it's a feature already, but it might be in a future version of the Illuvidex of just like a transfer option. So, what would be the idea behind the transfer option? Like, if you sell something, you'd be selling it to somebody else. But why would somebody want to just transfer it?
A couple of reasons. So if you just simply want to gift someone something, I use the transfer function on Token Trove all the time when I'm doing giveaways and trivia and stuff like that. So you don't really want to be paying a fee on things like that when you're doing a giveaway. And another one would be, let's say a guild is setting up. They've got I don't know, 10,000 alluvials or whatever, and they've got 6 of their top players that they want to enter into a tournament. They need to swap around their decks so that each player is geared up to have the best chance at winning this tournament. You would not want to be paying fees to transfer things in between these wallets so they can get that optimal team. I think it just makes sense to have the ability to just swap around all of the different configs and then go from there.
Yeah. So one of the first things I thought of was uh, the ability to maybe just trade an alluvial back and forth. Like, say I'm chatting with somebody on Discord, and I say like, I'll trade you my Rhamphyre for 3 of your Axodons or something like that. Is that Could that be possible? I know it would be kind of
So
not trustless.
no, so there's not an escrow feature with that, right? Like what you're looking for is, hey, we take custody of that, and we use like there's multiple different providers that allow you to do that with NFTs. I can't remember off the top of my head. I haven't done it myself, but there's quite a few where you can put them essentially in escrow, and so the smart contract knows when you've got both the assets and both parties agree, that's when it's transferred out, and you don't have any issues with someone saying, hey, I swear I'll transfer this one if you give me this one, and then they just don't transfer it to you. So I don't want to confuse people. That's not what our transfer function is built for.
All right. So this is a big question I have because this is something that I'm trying to work towards myself. What would you say, or any advice you have for somebody who wants to, maybe leave their traditional job and go full time in Web3 gaming or GameFi?
Well, I mean, it really depends. What do you want to do, right? Like, do you want to build, do you want to be a content creator that's making money off that? Do you want to be a trader? Do you want to be someone who's actually building a project? Like, there are so many different ways. So I guess that would be the first thing, right? Like,
Yep.
step back
Yep.
and go, okay, you need a reason to want to, like, if you just go, I love Web3, it's amazing, I'm going to quit my job and just do it.
Yep.
What
Yep.
is that, right? Like, that's like saying, I love the internet, right? I'm just going to go full time on the internet. And it's like, what does that actually mean, right? Like, you need to have a goal in place and something that you love doing, right? Like, just going full time into Web3 isn't necessarily something that's going to give you, funds to be able to survive, right? Like, everyone has real life costs. And so I guess the biggest thing for me would be choose something that can potentially make you money, and then also something that you love, because generally speaking, most things, because it moves so fast and you've got such an open source nature in the ecosystem, it's probably moving 5 times as quick as your traditional Web 2 business environment. And so you need to be spending, to keep up with that, something like 12 hours a day as a minimum, looking at charts, watching projects, being in communities, talking to people, learning, because there's just so much to learn. Every single day I'm learning new stuff. And when I first jumped into Web3, my thing was, I'm going to be a trader, right? Like, that was the path that I chose. And previously in Web 2, I'd started 4 or 5 businesses, right? And so I sort of knew that I would fall into something, but you need something to go to give you that money and that drive. And for me, it was, I'm going to become the best trader that I can. I had this alt account, which I will literally never reveal ever to anyone. And I was researching. I was deep in these communities, and I was spending 16 hours a day, sometimes 20 hours a day, right? Like, getting deep into learning how to trade. And then it just, I just subsequently saw an opportunity to build my own project, and the rest is history there. So yeah, I guess my advice is, just don't just jump in based on nothing. Find a niche that makes sense to you, and then just go hard at it.
Awesome. Yeah, great advice. And when it comes to the content creation, so say someone's watching this and they're thinking about making like a YouTube video or making content somewhere. Why do you think they should make content around Illuvium versus any other game?
So you got to sort of choose the right. It's the same as trading, right? Like, you got to choose the projects that have longevity if you want to create a sustainable income. You gotta pick the projects that have the right team, that have the right backing behind them, the ones that have the largest communities, because that's where the people are going to flock to. Right now, I would say, don't just make content on a single game, right? Like, that's casting out a net in, you're basically fishing in the rock pool when you've got the entire ocean out there. And it's tough, right? Like, you can go and make content on shitty little games, and games that don't end up coming to fruition or doing what they said, and all this sort of stuff. And the trouble with doing that is, you're sort of endorsing the game by making content. And again, it depends. What you can make negative content about it, or if but most people go out and say, hey, this is amazing, I think this is going to be awesome, blah blah blah. And the trouble with that is, you'll gain subscribers that end up going into your projects, right? Like they will say, okay, Najafe said go into this, and it's an awesome game, and so you then end up buying a whole bunch of their tokens, and if that ends up being a bad bet for them, they're going to say it was you're the bad one, right? Like, not me. Hey, I'm just a guy who didn't know anything. You're meant to be the expert. So you got to be careful about a whole bunch of things, but you also need to you need to cast as wide a net as possible without going and shining light on potential projects that are going to rug pull or that are scammy and all that kind of stuff. So it's just this happy medium that you need to make. But what I would say to content creators now is, and I do say this to a lot of people that I speak to, and obviously I speak to a whole bunch of you guys, the people that are creating content now, and particularly in the bear market, they're the ones in the next bull market where your numbers are just going to go through the roof, right? And all of this grinding that you guys are doing now, and I think you've been around for about nearly 12 months now. So you would have been there just as the bull market was ending.
I hit the peak.
Yeah.
I started right at the
peak. Yeah.
It's like us, right? Like, our numbers are dropping across the board in views and stuff like that, and it's sort of hit a plateau now. But you can literally trace it. It's almost mimicking the charts in ETH and all the other altcoins. And so what I would say is that and it's, same thing with people who are building in a bear market. You will be rewarded when the bull market comes. And so, even though there are probably 95% less people that are into crypto, watching crypto right now, that's going to come back. And the people that position themselves and have been creating content for a long, long time, when the bull market comes back, people ask in Discord, hey, how did you find that project? And on Twitter, what was the reason? And they're like, oh, Najafe, right? Like, he's the one who I watch. And then that word of mouth spreads, and that's how you gain a massive amount of subscribers.
Awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to that. All right, so I know you don't have too much time right now, so I'll finish up with a couple quick things here. So just Illuvifest. I've been hearing a lot about this. I'm pretty excited about it. It sounds fun. When is this going to happen, and what can you tell us about it?
So we're definitely still in the ideation phase. We're getting all of the agreements that we need, and not just agreements, like things like where, when, who. We need to get a bunch of that in place to then be able to write the IIP to get it approved. And, I've been gathering feedback from the community across multiple different channels, and it all seems very, very positive, right? And there's a potential for us to make a decent amount of revenue from it. But we're not at a stage where I can give you any sort of information of where and when and how. I would say the ideal for me would be summer of next year in Australian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so summer for you. Okay.
Around December, Jan.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll finish up with this. Obviously, there's a lot of comparison between Illuvium and Pokemon, and I think Illuvium has the potential to get as big someday, even if it's 20 years down the road. But what exactly is needed? What do you think is needed for Illuvium to become that next Pokemon?
We've got to keep on building on the IP, right? Like, we've got to the lore needs to be very, very well received, and I think it will, right? Like, we have a lot of smart people that are in the story team, and Aaron has built a really, really cool narrative that I think people will get behind. But we've got to ensure that we're really always pushing that IP first. And really just, again, I always sort of come back to this line, right? We need to invoke the psychology of collecting, right? That I want to have that character, right? Like for whatever reason, we really need to pull on those strings and get people who would die for their favorite character, right? Where like they want to wear it in merchandise, they want to watch it on TV, they want to see it in a movie theater, like that type of stuff where it's like, I love these characters is what we need to do. And that's what we've been trying to do across the board. You know, there's people, you ask them, and within a millisecond, if you say, "What's your favorite character?" they'll say Pikachu, right? Like it's just bang.
Yeah.
That needs to be Atlas, right? Like that needs to then
Yeah.
spread across 15, 20, 30 other Alluvials where people are like, I love these characters as much as I did the Pokemon characters. And then we also have the advantage of our games, instead of you not being able to own your characters in like in Pokemon, right? Like a new game comes out, you got to start again, you got to collect them all again. The difference here is we have verifiable ownership of assets. So when you collect them, you can literally, like they did, and it's kind of very tied into how you could own the cards, right? Like no one could take them away from you unless they got stolen or you lost them or whatever. You couldn't have them taken away from you. So like the equivalent of like getting lost or stolen, I guess, is having your wallet hacked or whatever. So as long as you keep them secure, they're yours forever. And if we go through and build out this universe and have these 9 AAA games that are utilizing the same assets across every single game, and you hold on to those assets, especially, you know, the generation 1, 2, and 3, like you get 100 million people playing inside this universe and potentially more as we grow. They're going to be valuable, right? Like they're going to be sought after. And, you know, as long as we continue to keep those assets appreciating, then we have the potential to be the next Pokemon.
I think it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to the next 10, 15, 20 years with Illuvium. You know, I'm committing a lot of time to it because I believe in it. But that's about it, what I have for you, Kieran. So, you know, everybody here, obviously, most of you are probably already following Kieran on Twitter, all of that. But thank you for coming on here and answering some questions. And I hope to have you on again soon.
No worries. Yeah, for sure. Let's look to set something up closer to the end of the year.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. All right. Thank you.
All right,
Sweet.
thank you.
All right, man. I'll talk to you
right.
soon.
All right.
Cheers.